Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 45.
Chapter 45.
Yes, Chapter 45, which was recommended to us as a blind.
Which makes me scared.
Yes. See, right when we had started the book, we got a bunch of blind recommendations. They have all been fairly scattered out throughout the book, which has been interesting. And this is, I think, Honor Chasm was the first, and then this is the second.
Yep.
Now, Shadesmar sounds to me like a place, and it sounds a little Fey to me, like Fey Realm-y. What do you think of that?
It just makes me think of... I didn't go Fae, it's just Shadow Realm.
Voidish. Yeah, Shadow. That's the better way to... Yes.
And I see from the artwork, this is a Shalorn chapter. Not from the words, it's just because Shalorn chapters have female pictures on them. So it's both of them.
So, oh man, is this where we, since this was recommended as a blind, is this when Yasna realizes the thing was stolen or switched?
I feel like, this has to be a huge plot point. Chapter.
Yeah, something big is gonna happen. Okay. Yelignar, called Blightwind, was one that could speak like a man, though often his voice was accompanied by the wails of those he consumed. Well, that sounds like a primordial deity, Cthulhu-like thing.
Yeah.
Speak like a man. Okay, speak like a man.
So he was able to speak. Yeah, cool. He was able to speak, but his voice was accompanied by the wails of those he consumed. So, like, they're like you think of voices screaming inside this.
Yeah.
It seems like a description of an Voidbringer. Like, there's one of them, and this is what he's like.
Yeah. The unmade were obviously fabrications of folklore. Curiously, most were not considered individuals, but instead personifications of kinds of destruction. This quote is from Traxel, line 33, considered a primary source, though I doubt its authenticity.
Ooh. So it's like, okay, so why are we taking this note? Oh, it's clearly a fabrication. Are we hoping that it was?
Yes.
I guess this is the way that legends and things happened. So it does make sense that and when I say she, I'm thinking of Yasna writing notes. Yeah, that's what happens when people created gods. It's personifications of certain forces. So personification of kinds of destruction. I guess you could think of a storm or something that has a tornado or something that has consumed people, and it could talk like a man, but it's usually you're just hearing the screams of the people that have been consumed by it. It makes sense, but at the same time, I feel like there is literally something, a void bringer. Like, it is a thing. It's not just a metaphor.
Yeah, it's Sinch. I don't know Warhammer, but it sounds like Sinch. Sneech?
It's a cinch. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
Also, have we had the word unmade spoken to us as well?
Ooh, no, I think that's a first as well. Good catch.
The unmade, which is like a void bringer, brings the unmadeness. So anyway, the unmade. Highlighted. Good. They're an oddly welcoming group, these wild Parshmen.
Shalon read. It was King Gavilar's account again, recorded a year before his murder.
It has now been nearly 5 months since our first meeting. Dalinar continues to pressure me to return to our homeland, insisting that the expedition has stretched too long. Wow, Dalinar is giving us, again, he's the measured thing, where he's reasonable, but Gavilar...
But wasn't it Gavilar's death that caused Dalinar to become the reasonable one, or a reasonable one?
I don't know. Maybe it made him more. The Parshmen promise that they will lead me on a hunt for a great shelled beast they call an Ulomasvara, which by scholars say translates roughly to monster of the chasms.
Chasm
If they're
fiends.
Yep, chasm fiend. They're leading. Okay, so they're welcoming. Why are they welcoming? This is what they were like before they decided to make a treaty and then betray Gavilar. What's the whole point?
Hmm.
If the descriptions are accurate, these creatures have large gem hearts, and one of their heads would make a truly impressive trophy. They also speak of their terrible gods, and we think they must be referring to several particularly large chasm great shells. Okay.
Well, terrible gods is a specific turn of phrase
Mhm.
that is juxtaposed right against the Yelig Nar called Blightwind, which sounds like a terrible god.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, there's something more than a chasm fiend.
Yeah.
We are amazed to find religion among these Parshmen, the mounting evidence of a complete Parshman society with civilization, culture, and a unique language is astounding. My storm wardens have become calling this people the Parshendi. It is obvious this group is very different from our ordinary servant Parshmen and may not even be the same race, despite their skin patterns. Perhaps they are distant cousins, as different from ordinary Parshmen as the Alethi Axehounds are from the Soleil breed. Okay, I suppose this is similar to the kind of horses they have as well. You know,
Yeah.
that they've got those Rashadian horses. Like it's that's the kind of distinction he's trying to make. It's a different breed.
Yeah. And then there's still that sort of cultural, what's the
Mhm.
word? Superiority
Yes,
ingrained
it's
in
like,
the
oh,
very way that he thinks.
hmm, and yes, we know that a woman is writing this,
That too.
and and making these observations along with what he's said. So it's making him sound a lot smarter than he, or a lot more considered than he actually is. Which is just irritating me. Just keeping that in mind. I'm like, what was Gavilar actually thinking about?
Yeah.
But anyway, the Parshendi have seen our servants and are confused by them. Where is their music? Clade will often ask me. I do not know what he means, but our servants do not react to the Parshendi at all, showing no interest in emulating them. This is reassuring.
Okay.
Wow. So it's like, oh, okay, at least they're not looking for freedom. That's good.
Yeah, so we do know that that is something Gavilar considered. And that would be one hell
Mm.
of a thing to think that your trained lobotomites might not
Mm-hmm.
actually be lobotomites. The AI uprising, the machines, and we get our first Parshendi name, I think. Yeah,
Clade, yeah.
Clade. And where is their music? So we know that the Parshendi, play the drums. We know they sing in battle. We
Mm-hmm.
know that oaths and magic uh, are seem to be connected in some way. And um, what I got from that question was some sort of inner music. I wonder if
Hmm.
there's something about the consciousness, life is a song type of an idea going on here.
Yeah, they seem rather soulless.
Hmm.
So the music would be the soul. The question about the music may have to do with the humming and chanting the Parshendi often do. They have an uncanny ability to make music together. I swear that I have left one Parshendi singing to himself, then soon passed another out of earshot of the first, yet singing the very same song, eerily near to the other in tempo, tune, and lyric.
Perhaps
Okay, are
something
they a hive mind? Hey?
yeah, something psychic going on there.
Yeah, music is a way to connect. They connect. Interesting.
Hmm.
Their favorite instrument is the drum. They are crudely made with handprints of paint marking the sides. This matches their simple buildings, which they construct of crem and stone. They build them in the crater like rock formations here at the edge of the shattered plains. I ask Clade if they worry about high storms, but he just laughs. Why worry? If the buildings blow down, we can build them again. Can we not?
So
Okay.
I already like Clade, but note to the Alethi, creme is bad and they have to work to get
Mhm.
rid of it. And the Parshendi, it's good. It's what they build their homes for, or with.
It's like mud huts, okay? They're okay with it.
Yeah.
They're so primitive. And they're like, "Oh, you why must I oh, the buildings go away? Well, I can just make new ones. That's fine."
Yep. On the other side of the alcove, Yasna's book rustled as she turned a page. Shalon set aside her own volume, then picked through the books on the desk. Her philosophy training done for the time being, she had returned to her study of King Gavilar's murder. She slid a small volume out from the bottom of the stack, a record dictated by Storm Warden Matane, one of the scholars who had accompanied the king. Shalon flipped through the pages, searching for a specific passage. It was a description of the very first Parshendi hunting party they encountered. Okay, so
Okay,
now we're
this is
getting some of those woman's notes.
mhm. Also, we're also getting the Storm Warden. I don't think this is a woman's note yet, but she it's a Storm Warden who is a scholar, and
Yes.
we're learning more about Storm Wardens, is what I'm trying to say, because it
Yeah,
says,
we.
yeah, dictated by Storm Warden Matane, one of the scholars who had accompanied the king. So a Storm Warden is considered a scholar.
Yes. And we just got some more info about storm wardens in
Mm,
the last chapter, so I think this is
mhm,
specifically placed.
mhm,
Sanderson is drawing our attention to the storm wardens and what they do and who they are.
mhm. Yeah. It happened after we set up beside a river in the heavily wooded area. It was an ideal location for a long term camp, as the dense cobwood trees would protect against high storm winds, and the river's gorge eliminated the risk of flooding. His Majesty wisely took my advice, sending scouting parties both upriver and down. High Prince Dalinar's scouting party was the first to encounter the strange, untamed Parshman. When he returned to the camp with his story, I, like many others, refused to believe his claims. Surely Bright Lord Dalinar had simply run across the Parshman servants of another expedition like our own.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so yeah.
it said Dalinar's scouting party, so Dalinar was a part of the scouting party.
Hmm.
That feels important. Wouldn't you delegate scouting? But I guess it would
Well,
be
it,
Gavilar
you,
delegating to Dalinar, yeah?
it could still be his scouting party with him not in it, because it's his
Yeah.
soldiers doing it. He doesn't have to be the ones there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But noted, Dalinar, the first one to see the Parshendi.
The first one, at least the first Lord's party. We don't know if it was him.
It sounded to me
Oh, but
like
but
it
no,
was
but he
him.
is in no, because yeah, because it is. Surely Bright Lord Dalinar had simply run across, so he was in it, across the
Yeah.
parchment servants of another. Yeah. Okay. And look, I guess they're not in a huge group either. They're on an expedition, so they'll do stuff.
Hmm.
Once they visited our camp the next day, their reality could no longer be denied. There were 10 of them, Parshmen to be sure, but bigger than the familiar ones. Some had skin marbled black and red, and others were marbled white and red, as is more common in Alethkar. They carried magnificent weapons, the bright steel etched with complex decorations, but wore simple clothing of woven Narban cloth.
So yeah, I'm definitely getting of the jungle vibes.
Hmm. But they've got magnificent weapons. Where did they get these from? So they make everything else out of crem and stuff, but then they've got these crazy weapons.
That is an interesting little mystery. How do they
Mhm.
forge the weapons if
Yeah.
they are jungle savages?
Yeah, complex decorations, everything, but you're like, "Oh, well, I'll just make my mud hut again if it breaks, if it blows away."
Yeah, but there's also what I got from the "we can just build another home"
Mhm.
passage is that these are perhaps, I don't want to say nomadic because I
Mhm.
can't speak to that, but they are very much simplistic people, whereas the Alethi are clearly people of excess.
Mhm. Yeah. They make camps and then they stay there. They conquer places and yeah.
They build magnificent palaces and
Mhm.
stuff.
Before long, His Majesty became fascinated by these strange Parshmen, insisting that I begin a study of their language and society. I'll admit that my original intent was to expose them as a hoax of some kind. The more we learned, however, the more I came to realize how faulty my original assessment had been. So, yeah, there really are scholars, Storm Wardens. Like, he's been instructed to do a study of their language and society. Like, so you're not just a weatherman if you're a storm warden.
Correct.
Mhm. So this is something I just keep this in mind. This is something that Kaladin could have done.
Yeah, because Kaladin's smart. But
Yeah.
there's also the hoax element here. This person is so certain that they think that
It's a
this
lie.
is
Yeah.
an elaborate joke on us, and I'm gonna prove
Mhm.
it, kind of a thing.
And he's been good. He had a faulty original assessment. Good.
Yeah. Shalon tapped the page, thinking. Then she pulled out a thick volume titled King Gavilar Kolin, a biography, published by Gavilar's widow, Novani, 2 years before. Shalon flipped through pages, scanning for a particular paragraph.
My husband was an excellent king, an inspiring leader, an unparalleled duelist, and a genius of battlefield tactics. But he didn't have a single scholarly finger on his left hand. He never showed an interest in the accounting of high storms, was bored by talk of science, and ignored fabrials unless they had an obvious use in battle. He was a man built after the classical masculine ideal. This is pretty funny, just thinking about her, this as a character. We know her.
Yeah.
She's rather predatory after Dalinar. And she chose Gavilar because he's not as scary as Dalinar. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess Dalinar was more of the playboy party boy kind of guy, and Gavilar maybe had a bit more of the gallant chivalry in him.
Maybe. I don't
Mm,
know. They both seem pretty masculine anyway.
yeah,
That they're both that way. They're both party boy, fight boy kind of thing.
yeah,
The classical masculine ideal. So the classical masculine ideal is one where men are not scholarly.
yeah. They're big dumb brutes that fight and destroy,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think that's our modern day. I hope it's not our modern day sense of masculinity. I mean,
And
we've talked in episodes in the past about how there's a fine line between destroying and building, and men like to build and be engineers and architects and what have you.
yeah, and I wouldn't say dumb brutes because if you're thinking about military intelligence and development and things like that, yeah, that's pretty complex stuff that men aren't dealing with. But okay, maybe this is just her. She's like, well, he's not a scholarly. He was not curious. He wasn't asking questions. He just listened. Well, how can I use this thing? A very practical man.
Agreed.
Why was he so interested in them?
Shalon said out loud.
Hmm.
Yasna asked.
King Gavilar. Your mother insists in her biography that he wasn't a scholar. True, but he was interested in the Parshendi, even before he could have known about the Shardblades. According to Mataine's account, he wanted to know about their language, their society, and their music. Was that just embellishment to make him sound more scholarly to future readers?
Good question,
Mm,
and already
mm.
I'm thinking she's going to ask something insightful that Yasna hadn't considered, and I bet Yasna's going to open up about why she's looking into these things.
I hope so. That would make this chapter the revelation that it needs to be,
Hmm.
the impact it's supposed to have. Maybe it's about the shades more, or I don't know. But also just a nice little nod towards the embellishment because that's when I'm reading anything now, I'm thinking, how is this person who is writing this? How are they skewing what actually is happening? That's
Yeah.
immediately what I'm thinking about. And I know that that happens in our world itself, but just having it in this world, it's an extra thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm extra aware of it, extra sensitive to it.
Yeah.
No.
Yasna said, lowering her own book.
The longer he remained in the unclaimed hills, the more fascinated by the Parshendi he became. So there's a discrepancy. Why would a man with no prior interest in scholarship suddenly become so obsessed? Yes, I too have wondered about this, but sometimes people change. When he returned, I was encouraged by his interest. We spent many evenings talking about his discoveries. It was one of the few times when I felt really connected with my father.
Oh, that's
Oh.
sweet and a little sad.
But he's probably getting visions and things.
That's
That's why he's
exactly what I
obsessed.
was thinking.
Yeah. He's seen something.
Yep.
He's got to unite them. I don't know what he's uniting, or I don't know what. Yeah.
Yep. Also, now I'm wondering if Shalon's gonna open up about her father.
Hmm.
Shalon bit her lip.
Yasna,
She finally asked.
why did you assign me to research this event? You lived through this. You already know everything I'm discovering. I feel a fresh perspective may be of value. Ha ha, there you go. Dorcas. You're like, she's going to ask the right questions. There you go.
Yup. Yasna put down her book, looking over at Shalon.
I don't intend for you to find specific answers. Instead, I hope that you will notice details I've missed. You are coming to see how my father's personality changed during those months, and that means you're digging deeply. Believe it or not, few others have caught the discrepancy you just did, though many do note his later changes once he returned to Kolinar.
So
Oh,
clearly something changed. That's exactly what we've read. You and I
Shalon
suspect it's the visions.
is. Yeah, what is the knowledge behind that? Did she have suspicions? Was he getting visions? Does she know that? I've lost track. It's a very long book.
Yeah, I don't think Yasna would know about the visions unless Navani reached out to her and
Mm.
said, hey, you should come back. Dalinar needs your help because he's having visions and people don't like him anymore. Except his own people that really like him. Which I don't think happened, so I don't think Yasna knows. And I don't necessarily know why she would equate the Parshendi with the visions and Gavilar's
Yeah,
change.
true.
Except for the fact that Dalinar himself has changed as well. Like, that's the only and somewhat tenuous connection I can see.
Hmm. Yeah, like the why did these men change?
Yeah.
These masculine ideal men change
Yeah.
into scholars and curious people.
But it would be easier to write off Dalinar's change as grief rather
Hmm.
than magic.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess she would be inclined. Magic exists in this world. It's okay. Even so, I feel a little odd studying it. Perhaps I'm still influenced by my tutor's idea that only classics are a proper realm of study for young ladies. The classics do have their place, and I will send you to classical works on occasion, as I did with your study of morality, but I intend such tangents to be adjuncts to your current projects. Those must be the focus, not long lost historical conundrums.
Shalon nodded.
But Yasna, aren't you a historian? Aren't those long lost historical conundrums the meat of your field? I'm a versed Italian. We search for answers in the past, reconstructing what truly happened. To many, presenting a history is not about truth, but about presenting the most flattering picture of themselves and their motives. My sisters and I choose projects that we feel were misunderstood or misrepresented, and in studying them, hope to better understand the present. Well, yeah, okay, you know your sisters that you have, cool, awesome stuff, but those historical sisters also embellished and shit like that. So I'm not she's not necessarily passing judgment on the people that wrote the histories, but those were women as well. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. I think
it's
I'm just used to women hating on men in history. So it's just like, hey, by the way, those historians are women too. So
it's a laudable goal, and
hmm
I know there was a shift at some point between what we understood historians to be. I suppose the distinction is an analyst
hmm
versus a historian. But this is I suppose, a more modern day approach to, or what we would hope a modern
yeah,
day approach would be to ancient history, at least antiquity, as
yeah,
I'm learning from jumping between modern scholarship on Rome and the primary sources.
yeah. It's all part of history, recording it and analyzing it.
Hmm.
Why then are you spending so much time studying folk tales and looking for evil spirits? That's she's thinking that.
No, Yasna was searching for something real, something so important that it drew her away from the shattered plains and the fight to avenge her father. She intended to do something with those folk tales, and Shalon's research was part of it somehow. Yes, smart Shalon.
Yeah, it's not an either or situation where it's like, oh, only the folklore and the folklore versus the what happened with the Parshendi, what's happening with the war there. They're related.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
not separate endeavors.
Very much so. And also, there has been no thought yet about the fact that she's gonna have to leave soon.
Mhm. Well, it's gonna I think it's coming because it's, like, very exciting. You have a key position here. She's relying on you for a fresh perspective. She's kind of just complimented you because you were she was the only one that noticed this discrepancy,
Hmm.
herself, so that's a good thing. It's not the aha moment because Yasna already knew that, but it's still a good sign. So, yeah, I'm sure that's coming up now.
That excited her. It was the sort of thing she'd wanted since she'd been a child, looking through her father's few books, frustrated that he'd chased off yet another tutor. Here with Yasna, Shalon was part of something, and knowing Yasna, it was something big,
And yet
she thought.
Tazbek's ship arrives tomorrow morning. I'll be leaving. Geez, so it's tomorrow.
Okay. So
I need to start.
start prodding Yasna for some answers.
I
Or,
don't know. She's yeah,
just ask for some time off to go visit your sick brother and then come back.
yeah, I suppose. But yeah, she's definitely stalled on this. Hey, if she's like she hasn't prepared anything, she's gonna leave tomorrow, and now she goes. I need to start complaining. I need to convince Yasna that this was all so much harder than I anticipated, so that when I leave, she won't be surprised. I need to cry, break down, give up. I need to. So that to me is like, you haven't been doing this. You should be doing this. You've had time to do this. Like, you can learn while you're doing it, but seriously, you knew for a while when this ship was coming.
Yeah.
And now you're just going to. Look, I guess if you just make yourself suddenly emotional, it'll be fine. But I think Yasna's a lot smarter than just going, "Okay, she just had an emotional break, that's it." I think she would see something behind that.
Yeah, look, it's easy for us to say it from the outside perspective, but one, she should have left sooner over the vigilante business, or she could easily forge bunny ears a message
Mhm,
from her brother saying, "Hey, I'm sick. I might not live. Can you come home so I could say goodbye one last time?" Or something
mhm.
like that. Don't even act like you're leaving permanently. Just be like, "Hey, I've got
Yeah,
a family thing. It is really important. I'll be back,
yeah,
I promise." And then just never
yeah.
return.
No, but having the "I'll be back" also is a kind of thing of like, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Um, don't suspect me. I'm on my way back.
Yep.
So, and you were saying that she needs to prod with questions and things like that, or to figure out what's going on. Well, here she is. How do you even say this? What is your theory?
Shalon found herself asking instead. To her surprise, Yasna answered without hesitation.
Urithiru was said to be the center of the Silver Kingdoms, a city that held 10 thrones, one for each king. It was the most majestic, most amazing, most important city in all the world. Okay, there we have the 10 heralds, the 10 kings of the
Hmm.
world. Okay, Silver Kingdoms, cool. Really? Why hadn't I heard of it before? Because it was abandoned even before the Lost Radiance turned against mankind. Most scholars consider it just a myth. The Ardents refuse to speak of it due to its association with the Radiance, and therefore with the first major failure of Vorinism. Much of what we know about the city comes from the fragments of the lost works quoted by classical scholars. Many of those classical works have themselves survived only in pieces. Indeed, the single complete work we have from early years is The Way of Kings, and that is only because of the Van Riel's efforts.
This is a lot of information that I just need to sit with.
Yeah.
Shalon nodded slowly.
If there were ruins of a magnificent ancient city hidden somewhere, Nutton Nutton, unexplored, overgrown, wild, would be the natural place to find them. Your theory is not in Nutton Nutton.
Yasna said, smiling.
But it is a good guess, Shalon. Return to your studies.
So she, Yasna smiles, which almost suggests to me that maybe she knows where Eurythero is, and she's waiting for Shalon to figure it out. Because
Yeah.
the things that Shalon brings up as possible strike me as fairly reasonable things and anyone might consider when asked where is there a missing city.
Yeah, exactly. So, but maybe yeah. So that's also why she's smiling because it's like, okay, this is she's going through the motions. She's doing the thinking that I did, and I'm happy
Hmm.
that she does. But hey, get back to your studies because you've got to do some other stuff.
Yeah, it's just that she's happy that Shalon is following the same line of interest that Yasna has.
Mm. The weapons,
Shalon said. Yasna raised an eyebrow.
the Parshendi, they carried beautiful weapons of fine etched steel, yet they used skin drum.
Hey!
You see? Yay! I did it too. They carried beautiful weapons of fine etched steel, yet they used skin drums with crude handprints on the sides and lived in huts of stone and crem. Doesn't that strike you as incongruous? We thought we were pretty smart, and Yasna's going to be like, so? Yes, I would certainly describe that as an oddity. Then, I assure you, Shalon, the city is not there. But you are interested in the shattered plains. You spoke of them with Bright Lord Dalinar through the Spanreed. I did. What were the Voidbringers?
Now that Yasna was actually answering, perhaps she'd say.
What were they really?
Okay, good. This is Shalon doing that prodding.
Yeah, it's a bit late though, and it's a bit unsubtle, but it's not prodding, it's more like slapping. But yeah,
Yeah. Yasna studied her with a curious expression.
nobody knows for sure. Most scholars consider them, like Earthuru, mere myths, while theologians accept them as counterparts of the Almighty, monsters that dwelled in the hearts of men, much as the Almighty once lived there. But return to your studies, child.
Yasna said, raising her book.
Perhaps we will speak of this another time.
So she's not ready to divulge all of her secrets.
Yeah, and she's got to be focusing on something else. There's other parts of it. But yeah, again, this is it's all a bit a little too late. And she's like, oh, perhaps we'll talk about it another time. There's no other time. We know that. Well,
Hmm.
there's supposedly no other time.
And it sounds like the fact that the Parshendi had steel weapons does not mean that they are inhabiting what was once Eurythera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she doesn't connect those two things.
There was an air of finality about that. Shalon bit her lip, keeping herself from saying something rude just to draw Yasna back into the conversation.
She doesn't trust me.
She thought, perhaps with good reason. Ya think?
Yeah, why should she? You're leaving.
That's not why she shouldn't trust you,
No.
Shalon.
It's just because that she's why would you haven't really you're just there. You're just a curious person that's there. There's nothing really you've questioned her decisions and her behavior. So yeah, she doesn't view you that highly that she's going to trust you.
Yeah, Shalon told herself again.
Tomorrow, you're sailing away from this.
But that meant she had only one day left. One more day in the Grand Palaneum. One more day with all of these books, all of this power and knowledge.
Okay, yeah, so she needs it. She needs to use it. I need a
Yeah,
copy of Tiffindor's biography of your father.
Shalon said, poking through the books.
I keep seeing it referenced. It's on one of the bottom floors.
Yasna said idly.
I might be able to dig out the index number. No need.
Shalon said, standing.
I'll look it up. I need the practice. As you wish.
Yasna said, now that's a lie. She's not looking for it. She's going to go down and read Shadows Remembered. And she'll be like, oh,
or
Yasna, sorry that took so long. I couldn't find it.
or she's trying to find some more knowledge about the Fabrial and the Soulcaster.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
only got she's only got one more day to find stuff on the Soulcaster.
Yeah.
So Google hard.
Shalon smiled. She knew exactly where the book was, but the pretense of searching for it would give her time away from Yasna, and during that time she'd see what she could discover about the Voidbringers on her own.
Okay, so she is going to think about the Voidbringers. It's like, yeah, that's what you're going to spend your time doing. But I guess there's not much to learn about the Soulcaster anyway, if she would have found it before.
Yeah, but I don't know how much time it'll take you to read up on Voidbringers if you're just supposed to be fetching a book. I guess you could say, oh,
Hmm.
well, I started reading it while I was down there, but
Yeah.
interesting. I'm interesting. 2 hours later, Shalon sat at a cluttered desk at the back of one of the Palanaeum's lower level rooms, her sphere lantern illuminating a stack of hastily gathered volumes, none of which had proven much use. Okay, so she doesn't have to be in the room with Yasna studying it. Okay. She
Yeah.
wasn't going there to fetch it. She went there to. Okay. It seems that everybody knew something about the Voidbringers. People in rural areas spoke of them as mysterious creatures that came out at night, stealing from the unlucky and punishing the foolish. Those Voidbringers seemed more mischievous than evil. But then there would be the odd story about a Voidbringer taking on the form of a wayward traveler who, after receiving kindness from a tallow farmer, would slaughter the entire family, drink their blood, then write voidish symbols across the walls in black ash.
Okay,
That's
so this is paralleling our discussion, what we had of the radiance. Everybody has an idea about the radiance. They've all got different beliefs and views of the way the radiants are. It seems like Voidbringers are pretty much the same.
Yeah. Most people in the cities, however, saw the Voidbringers as spirits who stalked at night, a kind of evil spren that invaded the hearts of men and made them do terrible things. When a good man grew angry, it was the work of a Voidbringer.
They're just demons, basically. I
Yeah?
thought they were big monsters. Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like very big shadow beasts that
Mm-hmm.
wreak havoc and destruction. Scholars laughed at all these ideas. Actual historical accounts, the ones she could find quickly, were contradictory. Were the Voidbringers the denizens of damnation? If so, wouldn't damnation now be empty as the Voidbringers had conquered the Tranquiline Halls and cast out mankind to Roshar? Okay. Uh,
Okay, so that's how man landed up on the planet. Is they were cast out of the Tranquiline Halls by Voidbringers, cast out into Rashar, which is the planet.
yeah. Would all of the devils go into heaven, leaving hell empty if they conquered heaven?
Yeah, I suppose because heaven's better than hell. That's why. Or would they? What are you saying? Like, would they? They occupy both because it's just they've just expanded their territory.
That's kind of what I was imagining,
Yeah.
yeah, like they would
Yeah. Why would they
inhabit
leave
both.
hell empty? Yeah, it makes sense. Why would? It doesn't necessarily mean hell is empty.
Hmm.
I should have known that I'd have trouble finding anything solid.
Shalon thought, leaning back in her chair.
Yasna's been searching this for months, maybe years. What did I expect to find in a few hours? True,
Good,
but,
yeah.
you know, but hey, it's worth a something. Yes, we knew this, but you have to start somewhere. But haha, you have to leave tomorrow, right, Shalon? So,
Is she gonna try and steal a book from the Palanaeum on it?
oh, why not? I mean, she's grand theft,
Fabriel.
souls. Yeah, so why not?
The only thing the research had done was increase her confusion. What errant winds had brought Yasna to this topic? It made no sense. Studying the Voidbringers was like trying to determine if Deathspren were real or not. What was the point? Are the Tranquiline Halls Urithiru in the Silver Kingdom?
I don't know. It's all so complex. It's really a heavy chapter for me right now.
Yeah. And maybe Yasna's making some sort of connection between the Tranquiline
Mm,
Halls and the Ten Kings and
yeah.
what have you. Hmm.
Well, would she not believe would she maybe not even believe in the Tranquiline Halls? She does, she's an atheist, so I suppose she would think, "Okay, the Tranquiline Halls were the city," I suppose.
Yeah.
That would fit with her belief that it's a literal place.
Yeah, and it was so beautiful and so on
Mm,
that after it fell, it became deified, so to
yeah.
speak, mythologized. The only thing the research had done was increase her confusion. What errant winds had brought Yasna to this topic? It made no sense. Studying the Voidbringers was like trying to determine if Deathspren were real or not. What was the point? Kaladin knows the answer to that one.
Yeah, he does. So does Syl.
So does Syl. She shook her head, stacking her books. The Ardents would reshelve them for her. She needed to fetch Tifandor's biography and return to their balcony. She rose and walked toward the room's exit, carrying her lantern in her free hand. She hadn't brought a parchment. She intended to carry back only the one book. As she reached the exit, she noticed another light approaching out on the balcony. Just before she arrived, someone stepped up to the doorway holding aloft a garnet lantern.
Oh, goodness. It's Capsule.
Oh, gee, surprise, surprise.
Stalker. How does he know where she is?
Yeah, I'm pretty you're right. It's
He's got a
stalker
tracker or
behavior.
something on her. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 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 but he's got some sort of way of telling where she is.
Mhm.
Oh, he's got people watching, but still, I would hey, we got magic in this world that could have some Gabriel that does it. Capsule?
Shalon asked, surprised to see his youthful face painted violet by the light. Shalon? He asked, looking up at the index inscription atop the entryway. What are you doing here? Yasna said you were looking for Tiffendor.
Okay, so we know that he asked where she is.
Mm-hmm. But why are
Mm,
you looking for her, bro?
yeah. I got
And
turned around.
whoa. Yasna avoids Capsol like the plague because she
Well,
doesn't like him. I think Capsol's lying.
mhm. How does he know then what she's looking for? Was he
Mm.
listening?
Oh, good
Okay.
point. I don't trust him.
I got turned around.
He raised an eyebrow at her.
Bad lie.
She asked. Terrible. You're about 2 floors up and about 1,000 index numbers off. After I couldn't find you below, I asked the lift porters to take me where they brought you, and they took me here.
Yeah, you see, there's a lot of forensic evidence that you can leave behind, Shalon, because she's like, oh, the Ardents will put the books away for me. It's like, yeah, the Ardents would then know which books you took out.
True.
But you're just like, okay, cool, I'll just leave them there. It's like, yeah, well, they'll know exactly. They know which floor they brought you to, and the people that take away the books are going to be able to say which ones they were.
Yeah.
Yasna's training can be exhausting, so sometimes I find a quiet corner to relax and compose myself. It's the only time I get to be alone.
Capsule nodded thoughtfully.
Better?
Still problematic. You took a break, but for 2 hours? Besides, I remember you telling me that Yasna's training wasn't so terrible. No, she said it was terrible. She just said it sarcastically.
Yeah, because you guys are insufferably sarcastic to each other. Because you're just
Mhm.
flirting and flirting and flirting. She'd believe me. She thinks she's far more demanding than she is. Or, well, she is demanding. I just don't mind as much as she thinks I do.
Very well. But what were you doing down here then? Don't tell him! Don't tell him!
Mhm.
She bit her lip, causing him to laugh.
What?
She demanded, blushing. You just look so blasted innocent when you do that.
I am innocent.
Didn't you just lie to me twice in a row?
Innocent as in the opposite of sophisticated.
She grimaced.
Otherwise, there'd have been more convincing lies. Come, walk with me while I fetch Tiffendor. If we hurry, I won't have to lie to Yasna. She's what? We're just gonna skip over it, okay?
Yeah, fair enough, he said, joining her and strolling around the perimeter of the Palaneum. The hollow inverted pyramid rose toward the ceiling far above, the four walls expanding outward at a slant. The topmost levels were brighter and easier to make out, tiny lights bobbing along railings in the hands of ardents or scholars.
57 levels. I can't even imagine how much work it must have been for you to create all this.
We didn't create it. It was here. The main shaft, at least. The Carbronthians cut out the rooms for the books.
This formation is natural.
As natural as cities like Colon are, or have you forgotten my demonstration? Semantics? What does
Yeah,
it mean?
true. hmm
It's a giant aeon.
Yes, exactly. No, but why didn't you use this place as one of your examples?
We haven't found the right sand pattern yet. We? Okay, so this is not just a you thing. Good to know.
It's all the people that believe in this theory.
Hmm.
hmm
We haven't found the right sand pattern yet, but we're sure the Almighty himself made this place as he did the cities.
What about the Dawn Singers?
What about them?
Could they have created it? Gosh, there's so many things in this freaking book. I forgot about Dawn Singers or whatever. Dawn Singers? Singers of. So are Dawn Singers Parshendi?
I don't think
Because
so.
they sing? No. Okay.
But again, we've got a lot of power of voice, power of words, uh,
Mm.
stuff. He chuckled as they arrived at the lift. That isn't the kind of thing the Dawn Singers did. They were healers, kindly spren sent by the Almighty to care for humans once we were forced out of the Tranquiline halls. Wow, okay.
That
They
still
were
does sound
spren.
posh indie.
They, a little bit,
Yes,
yeah.
I know. The sprain part could be wrong. Yeah.
They were spren, but they were singers, and yet Syl is unique among spren in that she can speak. So,
So is Dawn Singer?
ooh, maybe she's a Dawn Singer. Or something happened to the spren to take away their voice.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Kindly sprain. That makes me think of so
Yeah.
kind of like the opposite of Voidbringers.
I suppose you could say that.
Take us down 2 levels.
She told the Parshman lift porters. They began lowering the platform, the pulleys squeaking and wood shaking beneath her feet. If you
Come
think to
on,
dis-
there's a parchment right there. We're thinking about parchment helping humans and sprain helping humans. Just think about
Hmm.
it.
If you think to distract me with this conversation, Capsol noted, folding his arms and leaning back against the railing, you won't be successful. I sat up there with your disapproving mistress for well over an hour, and let me say that it was not a pleasant experience. I think she knows I still intend to try and convert her.
Of course she does. She's Yasna. She knows practically everything.
I don't believe that Yasna would. Okay, maybe I'd believe she'd, like, glare at you every time you open your mouth.
Yeah, but she's busy with her own stuff.
Yeah.
She's not gonna actively disapprove.
Except whatever it is she came here to study.
The Voidbringers. That's what she's studying.
How dare you, Shalon?
Oh, that really, really great. But she trusts him, you see. She doesn't give.
I
Oh, she's
need to.
just.
Sorry, I need to express. I intended to swear there and held myself back from doing it. This feels like a major breach of trust with
and
Yasna,
we just had
especially.
and and we just had Shalon saying she doesn't trust me. It's like, well, you see?
Yeah, and a big part of it is she isn't even supposed to know what
Mhm,
Yasna is studying. So I'm flabbergasted at this
mhm.
moment. Wow. But I cut you off. What were you saying?
Basically, I'd already made the comment.
He frowned. A few moments later, the lift came to a rest on the appropriate floor. The Voidbringers? He said, sounding curious. She'd have expected him to be scornful or amused.
No,
She thought.
he's an ardent. He believes in them. What were they?
She asked, walking out. Not far below, the massive cavern came to a point. There was a large infused diamond there, marking the nadir. We don't like to talk about it, Capsal said as he joined her.
Why not? You're an ardent. This is part of your religion.
An unpopular part. People prefer to hear about the 10 divine attributes or the 10 human failings. We accommodate them because we also prefer that to the deep past. No, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
Remember the.
it's
Remember it all.
no. We gotta make our religion appealing to the masses.
Yeah,
Because
she prodded. Because, he said with a sigh, of our failure. Shalon, the devotaries, at their core, are still classical Vorinism. That means the hierocracy and the fall of the Lost Radiance are our shame. He held up his deep blue lantern. Shalon strolled at his side, curious, letting him just talk. We believe that the Voidbringers were real, Shalon. A scourge and a plague. Now that's interesting because we've been thinking that Yasna has been thinking that they were real,
mhm.
which would put her in alignment with Cabsol at least on this,
And
unless
Capsule would
she's
be
unless she's seeking to prove that they aren't real.
yeah. But, I think she would believe that they're real, but that doesn't mean that there's the Almighty. She would still be an atheist anyway. It's just something that exists in the world like any other animal or something like that, like the weather. it's a natural occurrence that she is trying to figure out. It's kind of like with the way Tyndall viewed religion. She as
Mm,
well is just like, okay, this is what people believe. I'm practical. So I think that's what I'm getting from Yasna.
gotcha.
But this now makes the betrayal of telling Cabsol even more of a problem because he's gonna like want to talk about this to Yasna
Yeah,
because it might be a way in to convert her.
that is possible. Or it's also possible that Yasna has refused to talk to the Ardents about what she's looking for and therefore has cut herself off from a potential line of thought. And that's where Shalon will come in with the, hey, have you considered this aspect of it?
Yeah.
We believe that the Voidbringers were real, Shalon, a scourge and a plague. 100 times they came upon mankind, first casting us from the Tranquil Line halls, then trying to destroy us here on Roshar. They weren't just spren that hid under rocks, then came out to steal someone's laundry. They were creatures of terrible destructive power, forged in damnation, created from hate.
By whom?
What?
Who made them, I mean? The Almighty wasn't likely to have created something from hate. So what made them?
Everything has its opposite, Shalon. The Almighty is a force of good. To balance his goodness, the Cosmere needed the Voidbringers as his opposite. Cosmere!
The Cosmere, I suppose, is the universe. The yeah.
Yes. So
Mm.
there's no one specific devil.
Mhm.
There's the Almighty and the Voidbringers. Although we
But
got
nobody
that
made yeah.
epigraph about
Mhm.
one specific, so maybe there are many devils, like many
Mhm.
Lucifers. Hmm.
But we have everything has its opposite, but who created them? So that's the thing is we've got this God of all creation, right? And he creates only good things. This might be their introduction to the idea that God creates absolutely everything, which is a bit scary for them.
Yeah.
The opposite, because that is part of at least part of some of the Christian teaching is that all of the things, everything comes from God, including suffering.
Hmm.
It's all his plan. But he's like, yeah, everything has its opposite. Okay. So the more good that the Almighty did, the more evil he created as a byproduct. What's the point of doing any good at all if it just creates more evil? Good question. That's what she needs to be doing with this.
Yeah. I see Yasna has continued your training in philosophy.
That's not philosophy. That's simple logic.
I agree.
Mhm. It's yeah, it's like okay, fine. I'm gonna apply this rule. You've given me this rule. Look what happens when I apply it. That doesn't make sense. Give me another answer. And does he have one? Hmm.
He sighed. I don't think you want to get into the deep theology of this. Suffice it to say that the Almighty's pure goodness created the Voidbringers, but men may choose good without creating evil because as mortals, they have a dual nature. Thus, the only way for good to increase in the Cosmere is for men to create it. In that way, good may come to outweigh evil.
Okay, so it's like the Almighty actually can't create anything more. The Almighty's pure goodness created the Voidbringers. Okay. But it still seems like there is no blame on the Almighty for creating that. It was just a consequence. So that would just make me think that there is something greater than the Almighty and the Voidbringers. That's what it make would that's how I see it.
Hmm.
Like who wrote the rules for this counter argument? All right, but I don't buy the explanation about the Voidbringers.
I thought you were a believer.
I am. But just because I honor the Almighty doesn't mean I'm going to accept any explanation, Capsule. It might be religion, but it still has to make sense.
Is that an attempt at wit?
I suppose not. Well, it's truth, though. It's witty and true.
Yeah.
She wants it to make sense. Or maybe yeah, if there is not enough sense in it, she might leave it behind. Mm.
Didn't you once tell me that you didn't understand your own self?
Well, yes.
And yet you expect to be able to understand the exact workings of the Almighty?
That's a great trump card that you usually just take out. You really just like, so what, are you gonna try and understand God? Cool. Good for you.
She drew her lips into a line.
All right, fine. But I still want to know more about the Voidbringers.
He shrugged as she guided him into an archive room filled with shelves of books. I told you the basics, Shalon. The Voidbringers were an embodiment of evil. We fought them off 99 times, led by the Heralds and their chosen knights, the 10 orders we call the Knights Radiant. Finally,
Mm-hmm.
a Hariatem. Okay, so
That's the
that's,
thing.
yep, from the
The
artwork.
picture. Yeah.
Finally, a Hariatium came. I'm going to have to go ahead and listen to the audiobook for the
Mm-hmm.
proper pronunciation
Mm-hmm.
there. Came the last desolation. The Voidbringers were cast back into the Tranquiline halls. The heralds followed to force them out of heaven as well, and Roshar's heraldic epochs ended. Mankind entered the era of solitude, the modern era. Hmm.
Or Solitude, where they don't have Voidbringers. I mean, they don't have Voidbringers, they don't have Heralds. But what happened to the Knights Radiant? Because they don't seem to be in this. The Heralds followed to force them out of heaven as well. So yeah, it seems like they fought them back away from humanity, but maybe they're still fighting them in the Tranquiline Halls or something.
Or more specifically, maybe that's what they are supposed to be doing right now,
Hmm.
but they
Yeah,
aren't because they
and remember,
abandoned their
hmm
oath.
yeah, and remember that with these desolations and things like that, they're supposed to come back. That's the point you just made. But there's also just I'm just thinking when we did have exposure to the heralds in the beginning, there was this thing of like eternal pain where they go when they go back. So it's like they
Hmm.
go to damnation itself when they go back. They them fighting in the tranquilline halls is hell. Seems like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is what they believe of this whole cycle, but I think that there might be something more to it. There might be a truth.
Yeah, there's no reason to take this at face value,
Mhm.
especially considering I don't trust Capsule. But
Mhm.
I mean, it's possible that they did take the Voidbringers did take the Tranquiline Halls and then just like desecrated it. It's like
Mhm.
a big bummer for the heralds to see every time they go back.
Mhm. But yeah, the heralds are actually they didn't go into the Tranquiline halls this time. They well, the thing is, this going back into the Tranquiline halls is supposed to be the final desolation. So
Mm.
what we know is that they didn't go back.
Yes.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
Where did they go? What did they do?
Yeah.
So it hasn't been the last desolation yet, actually, because they're in the Tranquiline halls. The Voidbringers are having a good old time in the Tranquiline halls.
Yeah, but I think you and I have known essentially since that
Hmm.
first prelude that that was
Hmm.
not going to be the last desolation.
Yeah. But why is everything from before so fragmented?
This was thousands and thousands of years ago, Shalon. Before history. Before men even knew how to forge steel. We had to be given shard blades, otherwise we would have had to fight the Voidbringers with clubs.
And yet we had the Silver Kingdoms and the Knights Radiant.
Formed and led by the heralds. Shalon frowned, counting off rows of shelves. She stopped at the correct one, handed her lantern to Cabsol, then walked down the aisle and plucked the biography off the shelf. Cabsol followed her, holding up the lanterns.
There's more to this. Otherwise, Yasna wouldn't be digging so hard.
I can tell you why she's doing it.
Ooh, can he? Or is this just going to be what he thinks and it's just not that much of a revelation?
Yeah, I think it's that one. Yeah. Shalon glanced at him. Don't you see? She's trying to prove that the Voidbringers weren't real. She wants to demonstrate that this was all a fabrication of the Radiance. He stepped forward and turned to face her, the lantern light rebounding from the books to either side, making his face pale. She wants to prove once and for all that the Devotaries and Vorinism are a gigantic fraud. That's what this is all about. Okay, well, that would
Mm,
explain why she's not ready to tell Shalon, but
yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I think this is mixed in with the Gavilar
Yes.
assassination, and Cabsal's
And partially.
explanation here does not, yeah, the Parshendi.
Mm,
Cabsal's explanation here does not account for that.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, yeah, definitely doesn't, because he doesn't know about more that he does. I don't know. But yeah, he's obviously gonna think about it from the point he's basically just a priest, so like this is the worst, this is what she's trying to do because she's this atheist and that's what she's gonna do. And her whole thing is to prove it to everybody. It's like, ah no, she's probably worried that there is gonna be a desolation. She doesn't actually care whether she's gonna create atheists or not. She's more worried about the world, I would think.
Agreed.
It's not really that personal that it's, oh, it's all about proving to everyone. I'll show everyone that God isn't real. I don't feel like she's on that kind of crusade. Maybe.
She said thoughtfully. It did seem to fit. What better goal for an avowed heretic? Undermining foolish beliefs and disproving religion? It explained why Asna would study something as seemingly inconsequential as the Voidbringers. Find the right evidence in the historical records, and Yasna might well be able to prove herself right. Haven't we been scourged enough? Capsol said, eyes angry. The Ardents are no threat to her. We're not a threat to anyone these days. We can't own property. Damnation! We're property ourselves! We dance to the whims of the city lords and warlords, afraid to tell them the truths of their sins for fear of retribution. We're white spines without tusks or claws, expected to sit at our master's feet and offer praise. Yet this is real. It's all real, and they ignore us, and... He cut off
Hmm?
suddenly, glancing at her, lips tight, jaws clenched. She'd never seen such fervor, such fury from the pleasant Ardent. She wouldn't have thought him capable of it. And right there I got
Mm.
Deloff vibes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just how dare they? How dare you not believe and leave us alone? And maybe okay, so you could have that. Okay, zealous fervor, right? But you could also have he's confused and he's pissed off with being an ardent. Why should he be an ardent? Because this is not a, what kind of life is being an ardent? It's not actually when you're not, it's not what it's supposed to be. You can't tell the people what their sins are supposed to be, or you can't be real with them. You're just property yourself. So maybe that's also got to do with it. He's frustrated and he just very 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 much wants to be with Shalon.
Yeah, I don't like Absol. This guy's dangerous. He's more dangerous than he's letting on.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, he said, turning from her, leading the way back down the aisle.
It's all right.
She said, hurrying after him, suddenly feeling depressed. Shalon had expected to find something grander, something more mysterious behind Yesna's secretive research. Could it all really just be about proving Vorinism false? They walked in silence out to the balcony, and there she realized she had to tell him.
Oh, Capsule, I'm leaving.
He looked at her, surprised.
I've had news from my family. I can't speak of it, but I can stay no longer.
Something about your father?
Why? Have you heard something?
Only that he's been reclusive lately, more than normal. She suppressed a flinch. News had gotten this far?
Well, I think he's curious enough to figure it, to find out, to find news as well.
Yeah.
Stalker guy.
Yeah, Stalker Capsule. But, I mean, I think this is a suitable excuse she can easily give to Yasna.
Mhm. Yeah, it fits. Something's wrong with my father. Because
Yep,
hello, the father is alive to everyone else.
yep. And what better not alibi, but once
Life.
the family is saved
Mm.
and they can announce his death, what
Mhm.
better, like, I told you I had to go, Yasna. See, look what happened.
Mhm. Yeah, it works. I'm sorry to go so suddenly.
You'll return?
I don't know.
He looked into her eyes, searching. Do you know when you'll be leaving? He said in a suddenly cool voice.
Ooh, this emotional instability is very scary. You're right. He's a dangerous person.
Yep. Yeah,
Says
he.
me, who's so emotionally unstable. So I'm evil. Tomorrow morning.
Well then, will you at least do me the honor of sketching me? You've never given me a likeness, though you've done many of the other Ardents. She started realizing that was true. Despite their time together, she'd never done a sketch of Cabsal. She raised her free hand to her mouth.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she's never captured him. She's never it is something she's sorry for. Why has she not wanted to look at him and draw him? He's not interesting enough.
Taken bets now, she's going to be unable to draw him.
Oh.
I think she'll try to draw him, and then Geometry Men Part 2 occurs, or something magical will happen and he'll appear as a Voidbringer or something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. He seemed taken aback. I didn't mean it bitterly, Shalon. It's really not that important,
Yes, it is.
she said, grabbing his hand, towing him along the walkway.
I left my drawing things up above. Come on.
She hurried him. Okay, we're gonna forget about Yasna. That's fine. She hurried him to the lift, instructing the Parshman to carry them up. As the lift
She's
began to
grabbed his
rise,
hand. They're holding
aw,
hands. Mhm.
aw,
Don't trust him.
I don't trust him either. As the lift began to rise, Cabsal looked at her hand in his. She dropped it hastily.
Mm.
You're a very confusing woman, he said stiffly.
I warned you.
She held the retrieved book close to her breast.
I believe you said you had me figured out.
I rescind that statement. He looked at her. You're really leaving? She nodded.
I'm sorry, Capsule. I'm not what you think I am.
I think you're a beautiful, intelligent woman.
Well, you have the woman part right.
Your father is sick, isn't he? What are the odds this guy is... This
He's gonna
guy is
come with?
part of the organization that is... that owns that secret soulcaster, and he's
Why
keeping
not?
tabs on her because Nambalat got threats.
But then he
Ooh.
likes her at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that could very well be true.
Mhm.
Ooh, yeah, I bet he's part of the secret organization. Your father's sick, isn't he? She didn't answer. I can see why you'd want to return to be with him. But surely you won't abandon your wardship forever. You'll be back with Yasna.
And she won't be staying in Carbranth forever. She's been moving from place to place almost constantly for the last 2 years.
He looked ahead, staring out the front of the lift as they rose. Soon they had to transfer to another lift to carry them up the next group of floors. I shouldn't have been spending time with you. The senior Ardents think I'm too distracted. They never like it when one of us starts looking outside the Ardentia.
Your right to court is protected.
We're property. A man's rights can be protected at the same time that he is discouraged from exercising them. I've avoided work, I've disobeyed my superiors. In courting you, I've also courted trouble.
I didn't ask you for any of that.
You didn't discourage me. Don't put
What
this
the-
on Shalon. He made his choice.
Yeah, you're supposed to discourage him.
She had no response for that, other than to feel a rising worry, a hint of panic, a desire to run away and hide during her years of near solitude on her father's estate. She had never dreamed of a relationship like this one.
Is that what this is?
She thought, panic swelling.
A relationship?
Her intentions in coming to Carbronth had seemed so straightforward. How had she gotten to the point where she risked breaking a man's heart? And to her shame, she admitted to herself that she would miss the research more than Capsol. Good.
Good, because you don't want her to trust him, but then also, why are we leading him on if we don't care about him that much? But she had to
Yeah.
figure it out, I suppose. She had to figure out what she felt.
Yeah. Also good. Was she a horrible person for feeling that way? She was fond of him. He was pleasant, interesting. He looked at her, and there was longing in his eyes. He seemed... Stormfather, he seemed to really be in love with her. Shouldn't she be falling in love with him too? She didn't think she was. She was just confused. Or maybe she loves
Yeah,
Yasna. What?
she loves Yasno. She just loves herself and knowledge. She's not ready for a relationship. Doesn't seem like it. And yeah, she fancies him, but she doesn't love him. Oh, that is pretty sad. It's pretty like, oh, poor youngin. She's like, shouldn't I be falling in love with him too? Because this is like the first time somebody's fallen in love with her, and she doesn't understand. She's like, oh, this can be a one-sided thing. This is how love actually works.
Yeah.
It doesn't always necessarily happen with two people feeling the same.
I mean, you called it out pretty early. She just liked the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She yeah, she's just confused. She doesn't know. I don't know. Maybe she could grow to love him, but I don't think she's in the right spot now. In any case, and that's not good enough. I don't think that should be good enough. He shouldn't be sitting there waiting around for her to decide to love him.
Yeah. How had she gotten to the point where she risked breaking a man's heart? When they reached the top of the Palanaeum's system of lifts, she practically ran out into the Vale. Capsol followed, but they needed another lift up to Yasna's alcove, and soon she found herself trapped with him once more. I could come, Capsol said softly. Return with you to Yakaved. Shalon's panic increased. She barely knew him. Yes, they had chatted frequently, but rarely about the important things. If he left the Ardentia, he'd be demoted to 10th Dan, almost as low as a Dark Eyes. He'd be without money or house, in almost as bad a position as her family. So it's good to know that that's the penalty for leaving the Ardentia.
Yeah, quite interesting. So there is quite a penalty. It's not like, oh, you just have freedom, which is it's true. Oh, you have freedom to court. Yeah, well, I'm discouraged. Oh, you have freedom to leave, but also there's this huge downgrading lifestyle that you have to deal with. So it's all nice and structured to keep you in.
Yeah. Also, this far in, we still don't know what Shadesmar means.
Yeah.
Her family. What would her brothers say if she brought a virtual stranger back with her? Another man to become part of their problems, privy to their secrets. Although he could probably figure out how to use the Soulcaster.
Yeah,
But
but
you,
again, trust him, man. Both of us are just we're not getting this. We don't know.
yeah. Who's to say, like, if he left the Ardentia to be with her, and she's like, hey, I got this Soulcaster, can you figure out how to use it? He could take it, bring it back to the Ardentia, and be like, haha, it was a ploy, I gained her trust, and I stole back the Soulcaster.
Something like that. But I do think he has feelings for her. I don't trust him. It's weird
Yeah. Yeah. Something about him
because we
seems.
don't know him. We don't
Yeah.
know him. She's right. He's a stranger. They've basically just been flirting.
All those empty calories. I can see from your expression that it's not an option. It seems that I've misinterpreted some very important things.
No, it's not that. It's just, oh, Capsule, how can you expect to make sense of my actions when even I can't make sense of them?
She touched his arm, turning him toward her. No, don't touch him. He'll take that the wrong way.
Well, he has taken rejection from what her face said, so maybe he won't.
Yeah.
I have been dishonest with you, and with Yasna, and most infuriatingly, with myself. I'm sorry.
He shrugged, obviously trying to feign nonchalance. At least I'll get a sketch, won't I?
Ugh. He's really coming off as young as he is now, trying to be like, "Oh, I don't care. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, you rejected me, but it's cool. It's cool."
I don't know. I
Mhm.
I think that's about as well as
You
he can
can
play it off.
do.
He's not
Yeah.
like trying to push her too hard,
Mm.
like overly hard.
Mm.
And he's not being like, how did, you're not that
Yeah.
pretty anyway.
Yeah, which we don't want him to do.
She nodded as the lift finally shuddered to a halt. She walked down the dark hallway, Capsol following with the lanterns. Yasna looked up appraisingly as Shalon entered their alcove, but did not ask why she'd taken so long. Shalon found herself blushing as she gathered her drawing tools. Capsol hesitated in the doorway. He'd left a basket of bread and jam on the desk. The top of it was still wrapped with a cloth. Yasna hadn't touched it, though he always offered her some as a peace offering, without jam since Yasna hated it.
Okay. So he brought his picnic along to see Shalon as and was willing to brave Yasna for it as well. But yeah, the way this looks, she's been gone for 2 hours and then she comes back with Capsule. It's like, what have you been doing
Yeah.
with him in the library?
Where should I sit?
Just stand there.
Shalon said, sitting down, propping her sketch pad against her legs and holding it still with her covered safe hand. She looked up at him, leaning with one hand against the door frame, head shaved, light gray robe draped around him, sleeves short, waist tied with a white sash. Eyes confused, she blinked, taking a memory, then began to sketch. It was one of the most awkward experiences of her life. This is totally the opposite of funny line, yeah. This is totally the opposite of the Titanic scene.
Yes. Draw me like one of your this is the most awkward experience of my life. Thank you.
She didn't tell Capsol that he could move, and so he held the pose. He didn't speak. Perhaps he thought it would spoil the picture. Shalon found her hand shaking as she sketched, though, thankfully, she managed to hold back tears.
Tears.
She thought, doing the final lines of the wall around Capsol.
Why should I cry? I'm not the one who's just got rejected. Can't my emotions make sense once in a while? Girl, I get you. It's horrid. She's upset because she likes him but not enough, I suppose. And that's sad because she's like she wants to like him. And also, this is making me think, oh, the geometry men are coming back. That's what because she's not focusing on the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going to be shown to someone else.
Yes. Yep.
Here,
She said, pulling the page free and holding it up.
it will smudge unless you spray it with lacquer.
Capsol hesitated, then walked over, taking the picture in reverent fingers. It's wonderful, he whispered. He looked up, then hurried to his lantern, opening it and pulling out the garnet brome inside. Here, he said, proffering it. Payment.
I can't take that. For one thing, it's not yours.
As an ardent, anything Capsol carried would belong to the king. Please, I want to give you something.
The picture is a gift. If you pay me for it, then I haven't given you anything.
Then I'll commission another, he said, pressing the glowing sphere into her fingers. I'll take the first likeness for free, but do another for me, please. One of the two of us together.
Ooh.
Yeah, how romantic. She paused. She rarely did sketches of herself. They felt strange to draw.
All right.
She took the sphere, then furtively tucked it into her safe pouch beside her soulcaster. It
She
was a
needs that
little.
money though. She
Uh oh,
needs
the
that money. So I'm
soulcaster's gonna. The soulcaster's gonna do something.
uh-oh. Okay.
Sorry, I cut you off. What?
I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah,
No, I just thought
me
that she needs that money.
that too. It was a little odd to carry something so heavy there, but she'd gotten accustomed to the bulge and weight. Oh my. But also, yeah, I bet she's going to attune to the soulcaster in some way through doing the art and having the
Yeah.
gem there, the sphere.
Ooh. Oh. Yasna, do you have a mirror?
The other woman sighed audibly, obviously annoyed by the distraction. She felt through her things, taking out a mirror. Capsol fetched it.
Hold it up beside your head so I can see myself.
He walked back over, doing so, looking confused.
Angle it to the side a little. All right, there.
She blinked, freezing in her mind the image of her face beside his.
Have a seat. You don't need the mirror any longer. I just wanted it for reference. It helps me for some reason to place my features into the scene I want to sketch. I'll put myself sitting beside you.
He sat on the floor and Shalon began to work, using it to distract herself from her conflicting emotions. Guilt at not feeling as strong for Capsol as he did for her, yet sorrow that she wouldn't be seeing him anymore, and above it all, anxiety about the soulcaster. Mm,
Above it all? I don't know. I suppose she's been reminded
yeah.
by putting it in.
Also, what happens if Capsol blurts out that she's leaving to Yasna, thinking that she
Yep.
already knows?
Mm-hmm. That's what I would think. Something big, right?
Yeah. Sketching herself in beside him was challenging. She worked furiously, blending the reality of Capsol sitting and a fiction of herself in her flower-embroidered dress, sitting with her legs to the side. The face in the mirror became her reference point, and she built her head around it, too narrow to be beautiful, with hair too light, cheeks dotted with freckles.
The Soulcaster.
She thought.
Being here in Carburant with it is a danger. But leaving is dangerous too. Could there be a third option? What if I sent it away?
Don't send it UPS.
It's not gonna last. Ooh.
She hesitated, charcoal pencil hovering above the picture. Dared she send the Fabrial, packaged, delivered to Tazbek in secret, back to Yakoved without her? She wouldn't have to worry about being incriminated if her room or person were searched, though she'd want to destroy all pictures she'd drawn of Yasna with the Soulcaster. She wouldn't risk suspicion by vanishing when Yasna discovered her Soulcaster didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
She,
all makes sense.
yeah, but it's a huge. Both of them are huge risks. How do you know that's ever going to get there? I'm I'm not convinced, but I can see the option, and I think she's trying to find a way to stay. Give it to the guy on the ship, I suppose.
It makes sense.
Mhm.
She continued her drawing, increasingly withdrawn into her thoughts, letting her fingers work. Oh no, this is where we're going to get geometry, man.
Mhm.
If she sent the soulcaster back alone, then she could stay in Carbronth. It was a golden, tempting prospect, but one that threw her emotions further into a jumbled mess. She'd been preparing herself to leave for so long. What would she do about Kabsal and Yasna? Could Shalon really remain here, accepting Yasna's freely given tutelage after what she'd done?
Well, yeah, I guess it's worse to stay than run. I guess it's already shit. You're already
It's
done something morally reprehensible. So,
yeah, and it feels extra morally reprehensible on
Mhm.
top of it.
Mm. Yes,
Shalon thought.
yes, I could.
The fervency of, is she a sociopath?
Yeah, probably.
The fervency of that emotion surprised her. She would live with the guilt day by day if it meant continuing to learn. It was terribly selfish of her, and she was ashamed of it, but she would do it for a little longer at least. She'd have to go back eventually, of course. She couldn't leave her brothers to face danger alone. They needed her. Selfishness followed by courage. She was nearly as surprised by the latter as she had been by the former. Neither was something she often associated with who she was, but she was coming to realize that she hadn't known who she was, not until she left Yakoved and everything familiar, everything she'd been expected to be.
Oh, so
What?
she does know how selfish she is. I mean, we've been saying this. We've been saying, "Hello, you're properly self-centered. Hello, welcome."
Maybe
S-
she's unironically a narcissist. Like maybe she actually has narcissistic
Narcissism.
personality. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a proper disorder. She just doesn't even. They you will have low insight as a narcissist. You won't know. You won't know you're a narcissist. Everyone else will, but you won't.
Yeah. Her sketching grew more and more fervent. She finished the figures and moved to the background. Quick, bold lines became the floor and the archway behind, a scribbled, dark smudge for the side of the desk casting a shadow, crisp, thin lines for the lantern sitting on the floor, sweeping, breeze like lines to form the legs and robes of the creature standing behind. There it
Oh,
is!
spotted. It's sweeping robes. Okay.
Shalon froze, fingers drawing an unintended line of charcoal, breaking away from the figure she'd sketched directly behind Capsol. A figure that wasn't really there. A figure with a sharp, angular symbol hovering above its collar instead of a head. Shalon stood.
Whoa.
Hmm.
And this is behind capsule. Okay. Uh oh.
And this isn't like a geometry, amorphous, shifting lines. This is a symbol, a specific symbol.
Yeah. And she's drawn a lot of it. I thought she caught herself with one line, but it's like she's drawn all of it.
Yeah, and why is that thing over Cabsol? Why was it
Mhm.
over? Like,
It
is
was
this a
behind.
thing that's watching Shalon, or is it watching Taravangian and Capsol?
Mhm. Yeah.
Shalon stood, throwing back her chair, sketchpad and charcoal pencil clutched in the fingers of her free hand. Shalon? Capsol said, standing. She'd done it again. Why? The peace she'd begun to feel during the sketching evaporated in a heartbeat, and her heart started to race. The pressures returned. Capsol, Yasna, her brothers, decisions, choices, problems. Well, now he's sounding like a dementor of some kind.
We void bringers are something we don't know. This could be a void bringer. We don't know.
Yeah. Is everything all right? Capsol said, taking a step toward her.
I'm sorry. I made a mistake.
He frowned. To the side, Yasna looked up, brow wrinkled. It's all right. Look, let's have some bread and jam. We can calm down. Then you could finish it. I don't care about a.
I need to go.
Shalon cut in, feeling suffocated.
I'm sorry.
So, I mean, yeah, that is scary.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to look at it. You can't keep throwing these things away. It's you can't just ignore it. It's gonna happen again and again and again. We have to figure this out.
The other thing is, it doesn't say that she crumpled it up, or at least not yet,
Mhm.
which means Yasna and Capsol could take a look and be like, what's this about?
Mhm. I don't know. I don't want to even so, I don't want to crumpling it up at all. She's gotta deal with this.
Yeah. She brushed past the dumbfounded Ardent, hurrying from the alcove, giving a wide berth to the place where the figure stood in her sketch. What was wrong with her? She rushed to the lift, calling for the parshman to lower her. She glanced over her shoulder. Capsol stood in the hallway, looking after her. Shalon reached the lift, drawing pad clutched in her hand, her heart racing.
Calm yourself.
She thought, leaning back against the lift platform's wooden railing as the parshman began to take her down. She looked up at the empty landing above her and found herself blinking, memorizing that scene. She began to sketch again. She drew with concise motions, sketchpad held against her safe arm. For illumination, she had just two very small spheres at either side where the taut ropes quivered. She moved without thought, just drawing, staring upward. She's doing it on purpose now.
Mm. Okay, I hope so. I hope it's not just her trying to capture this sad moment of emotional outburst.
Yeah. She looked
Yes. Okay, they are there.
She looked down at what she had drawn. Two figures stood on the landing above, wearing the two straight robes like cloth made from metal. They leaned down, watching her go. Okay.
Yeah. They're following her, and there's 2 of them, so it seems like she had drawn 1 in the previous. Now it's both of them?
Yeah. So two have followed her.
Mhm.
I wonder if both Yasna and Capsol followed her as well. Hence two.
No, but no, they didn't because what's it? Capsol is gone. She can't see him anymore, and Yasna didn't follow. There was
Hmm.
no. She's in the lift all alone.
Ah. Well, I mean, I knew she was in the lift all alone. I thought, like, what she was looking up where she was
Mhm,
coming from the.
mhm.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
What's happening to me?
She thought with increasing horror. When the lift hit the ground, she scrambled away, her skirt fluttering. She all but ran to the exit of the Vale, hesitating beside the doorway, ignoring the master servants and Ardents who gave her confused looks. Where to go? Sweat trickled down the sides of her face. Where to run when you were going mad?
Yeah, you can't run from yourself, so I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, it sounds like one of the earlier descriptions of the Voidbringers,
Mhm,
making people go mad.
mhm.
She cut into the main cavern's crowd. It was late afternoon, and the dinner rush had begun. Servants pushing dining carts, light eyes strolling to their rooms, scholars walking with hands behind their backs. Shalon dashed through their midst, her hair coming free of its bun, the hair spike dropping to the rock behind her with a high pitched clink. Her loose red hair streamed behind her. She reached the hallway leading to their rooms, panting, hair askew, and glanced over her shoulder. Amid the flow of traffic, she'd left a trail of people looking after her in confusion. Almost against her will, she blinked and took a memory. She raised her pad again, gripping her charcoal pencil in slick fingers, quickly sketching the crowded cavern scene. Just faint impressions. Men of lines, women of curves, walls of sloping rock, carpeted floor, bursts of light and sphere lanterns on the walls, and 5 symbol-headed figures in black. 2 stiff robes and cloaks. Each had a different symbol, twisted and unfamiliar to her, hanging above a necklace torso. The creatures wove through the crowd unseen, like predators focused on Shalon. This is
Now there
suddenly
are
a very
5?
scary. Yeah, the silence is after her.
Oh my gosh, they're 5, and I wanna see these pictures so bad. I'm just imagining
Maybe
it.
you don't. I want to say, do you think she's schizophrenic? Except this is a magical world where this could
Yeah,
legitimately all be real.
yeah, I don't see why she has to be mad. I think she's seeing visions like Dalinar is hearing voices and things. All of this, it's a magical world, so I'm not seeing normal schizophrenia. And I
Yeah.
suppose normal schizophrenia can take on sort of relevance. Like your brain can give you relevant hallucinations. So,
Hmm.
all right. I'm just imagining it.
She tried to tell herself.
I'm overtaxed. Too many things weighing on me.
Did they represent her guilt? The stress of betraying Yasna and lying to Kabsal? The things she had done before leaving Yakaved?
There you go. That's a pretty reasonable thing to think. Like, okay, there are just these representations that are haunting me in my just they're from my mind. It's just me.
Yeah.
But why would it have to be 5 suddenly? And what are the symbols? The symbols are unfamiliar to you. What are you why would they take on this exact format?
Yeah. She tried to stand there, waiting, but her fingers refused to remain still. She blinked, then started drawing again on a new
Oh,
sheet.
sorry. Hello. Also, her guilt, the things she had done before leaving Yakoved.
Yes.
Remember that? That's really bad. We haven't we don't know. We still don't know. So the things are probably pretty bad. There are things feeling worth feeling guilty about. Mhm.
Yeah, I should think so. I'm I'm I still kind of think she might have killed her dad.
Yeah.
She tried to stand there, waiting, but her fingers refused to remain still. She blinked, then started drawing again on a new sheet. She finished with a shaking hand. The figures were almost to her, angular knotheads hanging horrifically where faces should have been. Logic warned that she was overreacting, but no matter what she told herself, she couldn't believe it. These were real, and they were coming for her. She dashed away, surprising several servants who had been approaching her to offer assistance. She ran, slippered feet sliding on the hallway carpets, eventually reaching the door to Yasna's rooms. Sketchpad under her arm, she unlocked it with quivering fingers, then pushed through and slammed it behind her. She locked it again and ran for her chamber. She slammed that door closed too, then turned backing away. The only light in the room came from the 3 diamond marks in the large crystal goblet on her nightstand. I'm wondering if those will somehow ward off these
Yeah.
geometry men.
Yeah, that's why I was like, does it matter which kind of gem is around her or something like that? I'm trying to think back if there was anything particular about certain gems the last time she was drawing and saw these people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it seems like we're supposed to take notes of which ones were in there.
Yeah. She got on the bed, then scrambled back as far from the door as she could until she was against the wall, breathing through her nose with frantic breaths. She still had her sketchpad under her arm, though she'd lost the charcoal. There was more in her nightstand,
Don't do it.
she thought.
Just sit and calm yourself.
She felt a growing chill, a rising terror. She had to know. She scrambled to pull out the charcoal, then blinked and began to sketch her room. Ceiling first, 4 straight lines, down the walls, lines at the corners. Her fingers kept moving, drawing, depicting the pad itself held before her, safe hand shrouded and bracing the pad from behind, and then on. To the beings standing around her, twisted symbols
Whoa.
unconnected to their uneven shoulders, those knotheads had unreal angles, surfaces that melded in weird and impossible ways.
Well, she's surrounded. Now what?
The creature, I mean, look, they haven't done anything to her yet. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
she
mean in
hasn't
this
been seen
moment, I mean since
yet.
Teravangian.
Yeah, they've been around for a while. She just hasn't been photographing them, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a look but no touch situation kind of thing.
Mhm. But now he's putting his hand out.
Oh god. The creature at the front was reaching 2 smooth fingers toward Shalon, just inches from the right side of the sketchpad. He's gonna destroy the sketchpad.
Oh, Stormfather.
Shalon thought, charcoal pencil falling still. Maybe it just wants a painting of itself.
It's like, wow, is that what I look like? I've never seen. We don't have reflections. This is cool.
The room was, yeah, it's a Sixth Sense kind of situation. They just need love and to figure out why they're still here.
Where their heads
The
are.
yeah. The room was empty, yet depicted right in front of her was an image of it crowded full of sleek figures.
Seems like there's more than five, but she does have a
Yeah,
small room.
yeah. They were close enough that she should be able to feel them breathing if they breathed. Was there a chill in the room? Hesitantly, terrified but unable to stop herself, Shalon dropped her pencil and raised her free hand to the right and felt something. Oh shit!
Mm, she's
I.
touching it.
Oh no.
What?
I'm just. Oh shit, it was scary. I was scared for a moment. I wasn't expecting and felt something, so I jumped.
What are we feeling? Tell us what you're feeling. I hate this line. It's just all about self there.
She screamed then, jumping to her feet on her bed, dropping the pad, backing against the wall. Before she could consciously think of what she was doing, she was struggling with her sleeve, trying to get the soulcaster out. It was the only thing she had resembling a weapon. No, that was stupid. She didn't know how to use it. She was helpless. Except, I
Okay.
mean, she what about the shard blade you probably have? The secret weapon.
Yeah. I think that's what she's gonna take out because she's like, "That's not the only thing I have." She's like, "Wait a second. I do have something. Storms.
she thought, frantic.
I can't use that. I promised myself." Yeah, so she used the shard blade to kill her dad. Come on.
Totally. She began the process anyway. 10 heartbeats. Yep. 10 heartbeats to bring forth the fruit of her sin, the proceeds of her most horrific act. She was interrupted midway through by a voice, uncanny yet distinct.
Interrupted, so is she not gonna get it?
Oh, yeah. What are you? She clutched her hand to her chest, losing her balance on the soft bed, falling to her knees on the rumpled blanket. She put one hand to the side, steadying herself on the nightstand, fingers brushing the large glass goblet that sat there.
What am I?
She whispered.
I'm terrified.
This is true. The bedroom transformed around her. Oh, shit! Oh,
She's tripping.
this is Shadesmar. She's about. Yeah,
She's
she's
gonna go
tripping.
into Shadesmar. Yeah.
Yep. It's the weird void Fey realm thing.
Yeah.
The bedroom transformed around her. The bed, the nightstand, her sketchpad, the walls, the ceiling, everything seemed to pop, forming into tiny dark glass spheres. She found herself in a place with a black sky and a strange small white sun that hung on the horizon too far away. Black sky, white sun. Noted.
Okay, and we've got dark glass spheres. We had such kinds of things with Kaladin and Sphere. It was one sphere. But okay.
Mm-hmm. Shalon screamed as she found herself in midair, falling backward in a shower of beads. Flames hovered nearby, dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, like the tips of candles floating in the air and moving in the wind. She hit something, an endless dark sea, except it wasn't wet. It was made of the small beads, an entire ocean of tiny glass spheres. They surged around her, moving in an undulating swell. She gasped, flailing, trying to stay afloat. Trippy?
Yeah, is she like seeing all different
Nightmarish.
worlds and things? Is she like in the multiverse in
Hmm.
between? Very freaking trippy.
Maybe this is an empty sphere in the same way that Kaladin was in a light sphere.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to change? A warm voice said in her mind, distinct and different from the cold whisper she had heard earlier. It was deep and hollow and conveyed a sense of great age. It seemed to come from her hand, and she realized she was grasping something there, one of the beads. Ooh.
Okay. What are the beads? Oh my gosh. I'm feel like I'm tripping right now.
Yeah. The movement of
Okay.
the ocean of glass threatened to tow her down. She kicked frantically, somehow managing to stay afloat. I've been as I am for a great long time, the warm voice said. I sleep so much. I will change. Give me what you have. Is the voice referring to the gem that Cabsol gave her?
The
Or
gem.
the shard blade or the soulcaster?
Yeah. All of the things she
Or
has. Give
or the
all of them.
sketchbook?
Or the sketchbook. Yeah. I don't know what you mean. Please help me.
I will change. She felt suddenly cold, as if the warmth were being drawn from her. She screamed as the bead in her fingers flared to sudden warmth. She dropped it just as a shift in the ocean swell towed her under, beads rolling over one another with a soft clatter. She fell back and hit her bed, back in her room. Bes- she fell back and hit her bed, back in her room. Something. This is not good. There, I'm concerned that something like stole her soul or some sort
Mhm.
of goodness that was within her, and I think whatever this is, it's not good, it's evil.
Okay.
And or maybe like she's about to be corrupted.
It's eternal. It's something. Yeah.
Beside her, the goblet on her nightstand melted, the glass becoming red liquid, dropping the three spheres inside to the nightstand's flooded top. The red liquid poured over the sides of the nightstand, splashing to the floor. Shalon pulled back, horrified. The goblet had been changed into blood. Ooh,
Okay. That is we're talking about change, and a soul caster is about changing, right?
yes.
Changing one thing to another. So that's something that you could theoretically do with a soul caster.
And isn't it the case that most soul casters like only transform one specific thing? Is this
Mhm.
Shalon's one specific thing? And what does it say about her that it's blood?
Also, did she speak to the soul caster? Because remember, she would talk about something and say, "Change, change, change," and it's like, "You want me to
Oh, yeah.
change? I will change." So that happened. Mm.
You're right. AI thing. Her shocked emotion thumped the nightstand, shaking it. An empty glass water pitcher had been sitting beside the goblet. Her motion knocked it over, toppling it to the ground. It shattered on the stone floor, splashing the blood.
That was a soul casting.
She thought. She'd changed the goblet into blood, which was one of the 10 essences. She raised her hand to her head, staring at the red liquid expanding in a pool on her floor. There seemed to be quite a lot of it. She was so bewildered. The voice, the creatures, the sea of glass beads, and the dark, cold sky, it had all come upon her so quickly.
I soul cast.
She realized again.
I did it.
No,
Okay, so
I mean yes,
this
but no, don't forget the evil.
but this could be some sort of what do you and because also she had a brome in her next to the soulcaster. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a ruby, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, so maybe that's this particular thing, and maybe he's doing something that is kind of like snapping.
yeah.
That you don't just know how to soulcast. You have to have some sort of snap that happens, some
Mm,
sort of first touching of this power.
yeah.
This happens in Wheel of Time, so we have snapping in Mistborn, it makes sense. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart. But I also think that the geometry men are
Evil.
evil and beings outside of the soulcaster that have their own agenda.
Mhm.
Did it have something to do with the creatures? But she'd begun seeing them in her drawings before she'd ever stolen the soulcaster. How? What? She looked down at her safe hand and the soulcaster hidden in the pouch inside her sleeve.
I didn't put it on,
She thought.
yet I used it anyway. Shalon?
It was Yasna's voice, just outside Shalon's room. The princess must have followed her. Shalon felt a spike of terror as she saw a line of blood leaking toward the doorway. It was almost there and would pass underneath in a heartbeat. Why did it have to be blood? Nauseated, she leapt to her feet, slippers soaking up the red liquid.
Shalon?
Yasna said, voice closer.
What was that sound?
Shalon looked frantically at the blood, then at the sketch pad filled with pictures of the strange creatures. What if they did have something to do with the soul casting? Yasna would recognize them. There was a shadow under the door. She panicked, tucking the sketch pad away in her trunk. But the blood, it would condemn her. There was enough that only a life-threatening wound could have created it. Yasna would see. She'd know. Blood where there should be none? One of the 10 essences? Ooh, Shalon, don't hurt yourself to make it appear like it's your blood.
I don't know. There is broken glass there. I suppose she could try, but it just still wouldn't make sense that all of that blood would be gone out of her.
Yeah. Yasna was going to know what Shalon had done. A thought struck Shalon. It wasn't a brilliant thought, but it was a way out, and it was the only thing that occurred to her. She went to her knees and grabbed a shard of the broken
Mm,
glass pitcher. Don't do it. In her safe hand, through the fabric of her sleeve, she took a breath and pulled up her right sleeve. You have to leave tomorrow, too. Don't do this. Then used the glass to cut a shallow gash. Shallow. Okay, slightly better. Gash in her skin. In the panic of the moment, it barely even hurt. Blood welled out.
okay, cool. So it's not going to kill her. She's not killing herself, but also, like, I was thinking when we were panicking that, she does actually hurt herself mortally, and I don't know, soul casting, if it can be used for healing or whatever, but then there would be a reason for for Yasna to try the soul casting, and then it doesn't work. So all of this is just a disaster anyway.
Yeah. And you're going to have to come up with a pretty good reason why you did this to yourself, to her.
Yeah. You're gonna have to try and say, "Oh, no, I dropped this and it cut me?" Yasna is not that easily fooled. I don't think so. Maybe she'll pretend. Maybe she'll think, "Oh no, Yasna, Shalon was suicidal," and maybe that will give her some sort of, okay, maybe let's not talk about this exactly now. But anyway, here we
Hmm.
go.
As the doorknob turned and the door opened, Shalon dropped the glass shard and lay on her side. She closed her eyes, feigning unconsciousness. The door swung open. Yasna gasped, immediately calling for help. She rushed to Shalon's side, grabbing her arm and putting pressure on the wound. Shalon mumbled as if she were barely conscious, gripping her safe pouch and the soulcaster inside with her safe hand. They wouldn't open it, would they? She pulled her arm closer to her chest, cowering silently as more footsteps and calls sounded, servants and parshmen running into the room, Yasna shouting for more help.
This
Shalon thought.
will not end well.
No, it won't. No, it
No,
won't.
it won't, because she didn't get rid of the picture, nothing. And if it is something to do with soul casting, then there is a like this is something that happens to everybody who can use a soul caster. They see these things, and if that's the case, but maybe it isn't, and then that's lucky. Then there's then it's just she's crazy,
Yeah.
and Yasna doesn't have any reason to suspect her of anything
Yeah.
except craziness.
I'm trying to figure out what the darkest part of this chapter was. The clearly evil Void Fey realm, the geometry men who appear to be connected to the Fey realm, the fact that the soulcaster turned things to blood, we think, for the moment, because it wasn't honor, so it could be something else. The shard blade of sin, or the
Mhm.
fact that she self-harmed.
Yeah, it's all very, very, very dark. Very, very worthy of a blind. But yeah,
Yeah,
just remember with the blood thing, it's because of the stone that she had near the soul caster. That's what I
we
think.
think. Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
it was too pointed, that's where it was. And that's the kind of stone it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to reread this chapter because there was so much information,
Mhm.
particularly right up front at the beginning, that I want to make sure I absorb it all and like understand what it is that I'm reading. Not that I
Yeah.
don't do that with blind blinds, but generally I move more quickly in the blind blinds than I otherwise would.
Yeah. Let's do that. But remember to leave a like.
If you like. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that darn Kita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Join the Discord. I post memes. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.